Hello and welcome to Uncanny Valley. What I'm about to tell you checks out, and I have checked and double checked and then triple checked again. I'm not knowledgeable in astrology or astronomy. I do not know much about ancient Egypt, the Bible, genealogies, or Phoenician archaeology. So there's a lot I still haven't been able to pin down specifically, especially in regards to the events around 1500 BC, who was who. It is difficult to tell if it is the same story told again and again about people or their assigned star, or whether it is going forwards or backwards, or forward then backwards, or backwards then forward. However, many languages are read backwards relative to us, and a recurring theme for this code is the reference to mirrors and twins. What I have learned I have discovered through 15 years of entomology and semiology after reading George Orwell's 1984, which inverts the names of government agencies, for example, naming the Ministry of War, the Ministry of Peace, and the Ministry of Propaganda, the Ministry of Truth. It is this inversion that has been used to code the Bible in a way no non-initiate has been able to decipher for 4,500 years. It is the same inversion used as a political and sociological tool for controlling minds, especially used in right-wing rhetoric, where they are effectively talking into a mirror. I'm not kidding, this is big. I only broke this code a few days ago, so there's plenty I don't know and cannot be explicit about. But what I can say for sure I will now divulge. There are mountains of information that come with this. All of my sources are academic, most all are straight out of Wikipedia. A few are blogs that correlate with the academic evidence or lack thereof. Bear with me. Try to keep your hands inside the rails at all times. It's very easy to get lost in Pan's Labyrinth. And who was at the centre of the labyrinth? Why, a minotaur, of course. Half man, half bull. This is an astrological calendar, a zodiac. It is also a historical document, a compass with which you can navigate the world using the stars, and through which you can determine the line of kings. It can also be used to resurrect a dead leader in the womb of his widow queen, the widow Sion, divinity by the female line. It is the Book of Amun-Ra, a user manual for the Pyramid of Cheops, which was a metaphorical resurrection machine. It is the Vedic, Egyptian, Babylonian, Phoenician zodiac, which in fact runs backwards as we orbit the sun anti-clockwise. So there's a good chance either of the Old and New Testaments are written backwards, just as Leonardo da Vinci was fond of using mirrors to write his notes, and how Isaac Newton tried in vain to crack the Bible's code. So too mathematician John Nash, who founded game theory, portrayed by Russell Crowe in the movie A Beautiful Mind, who sensed the code was being broadcast through the media, and it basically drove him mad. But they were onto something. Maybe some even figured it out. Phoenicians and Pharisees are the same people, and our timeline appears to be missing 144 years. Trump was just crowned 3 times, each 7 days apart, starting with the appearance of Rigel on June 7th, the toe star of Orion, and ending with the annular eclipse on June 21st. Last time this happened was in 1500 BC during the Battle of Joshua, where the sun crowns Apollo, as above so below, as within so without. On June 7, Rigel rises. Its other name is Orenville, as it was called by the Vikings, or Aurora, as it was called by the Greeks, Lucifer, as it was called by the Romans, Night King. It marks the Vedic New Year on the summer solstice, rising 7 days before the constellation of Pleiades, which was recognized as the god of eyes or the Seven Sisters. On June the 14th, Trump celebrated his 74th birthday. He shares that birthday with Aleister Crowley and Auschwitz. He also shares the same day as marked out by the Serpent Mound, built in 1080 AD by the Knights Templar. As the annular eclipse took place, directly opposite on the other side of the world, Serpentis was hosting both Jupiter and Saturn. Serpentis, the serpent bearer, is the 13th star sign of the Babylonian zodiac. These two stars give you the north and south of a compass, a golden compass. An astrological age is 2160 years. In 2160 BC, the reigns of Osiris, Abraham, and Nimrod ended, all born in a cave, portrayed with one eye, and are resurrected through magic. The star of Bethlehem was Saturn and Jupiter conjoining in 7 BC. 2160 minus 144 is 2016. If you add the 7 years for the conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn, you get 2023. And I believe Trump is going to start a war with China. The beasts of Revelation are the signs of the zodiac. Trump owes the Bank of China $1 billion for 1290 Avenue of the Americas. He shared a tax haven with Hillary, opened by Jeffrey Epstein, at 1209 in Delaware. 1290 is an inversion of 2160. 1260 days is the period of the treaty broken by the Antichrist. In 1290 BC, Set I began his reign. Half of 2160 is 1080, when the Templars built the Serpent Mound in Ohio, having discovered the secret in their journey to the Holy Land. Abraham is Nimrod, who we celebrate at Xmas during Saturnalia, when Saturn and Jupiter will conjoin this year, just as they did in 7 BC. Once one establishes Rigel and Serpentis in opposition along the summer equinox, you have a golden compass with which to travel the world's oceans. This dates back to at least 4,500 years, perhaps even 6,000. The pyramid in Cheops aligns with these stars. The tale of Isis resurrecting Osiris, which is Rigel, was a means to learn how to travel the trade routes using the stars. A journey to the underworld is when a star or planet goes below the horizon. The river Styx is the ecliptic, the Milky Way. Osiris, Rigel, Zeus, Odin, Apollo, Hercules, Nimrod, Jesus, Batman, and the Joker are all the same one-eyed god. The pyramids were a resurrection chamber. Obelisks worked as a sundial for the purpose of trigonometry and time, to establish a ritual of rebirth was happening at just the right moment. It is the name of each hemisphere, the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn. These are opposing signs in the zodiac, as above so below, as within so without, just as the annular eclipse that stopped the sun on June 21st, just as it did during the Battle of Joshua in 1500 BC, 666 years after the death of Nimrod, founder of the 9th dynasty of Egypt. Nineveh means 9. Osiris, Rigel, is the root of the tree, just as Jesus identifies as being the root of the line of David. Two key figures in the origin of Christmas are Nimrod, a great-grandson of Noah, and his mother and wife Semiramis, also known as Ishtar and Isis. Nimrod, known in Egypt as Osiris, was the founder of the First World Empire at Babel, later known as Babylon. From ancient sources such as the Epic Gilgamesh and records unearthed by archaeologists from long-ruined Mesopotamian and Egyptian cities, we can reconstruct subsequent events. Nimrod, also spelt Nimrod, was the legendary Bible figure a giant in the book of Genesis, the first on earth to be a mighty man. He was a mighty hunter before the Lord. The mighty hunter is the constellation of Orion. The Lord is Rigel. The dawn bringer, Aurora, Lucifer. The light bringer, Night King. The only other references to Nimrod in the Bible are Micaiah, where Assyria is called the land of Nimrod, and Chronicles, which reiterates his might. The beginning of his kingdom is said in Genesis passage to be Babel, Erech and Akkad in the land of Shinar. Nimrod is said to have then built Nineveh. After Nimrod's death, 2167 BC, Semiramis promoted the belief that he was God. She claimed that she saw a full-grown evergreen tree spring out of the roots of a dead tree stump, symbolizing the springing forth of new life for Nimrod on the anniversary of his birth. She said Nimrod would revisit the evergreen tree and leave gifts under it on his birthday. Kronos is an alias for Tammuz. Tammuz was Nimrod reborn. His son, his wife and mother were Rhea, Semiramis. Egyptian and Babylonian antiquities recognize his mother as Semiramis, and his birthday is celebrated on 25th December during the winter solstice. It is also regarded as the birth date of the Iranian mystery god Mithra, the son of righteousness. The sun god was also known as Saturnalia, as well as Nimrod. Revelations 22:16 states, I, Jesus, have sent my angel to you, this testimony for the churches. I am the root and the offspring of David, and the bright morning star. The Old Testament identifies Lucifer as the morning star. Isaiah 14:12, how you are fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning, fallen from heaven. Orion is the trunk of the horoscope. Nimrod is... I've already read that. During the time between Babel and Christ, pagans developed the belief that days grew shorter in early winter because their sun god was leaving them. When they saw the length of the day increasing, they celebrated by riotous, unrestrained feasting and orgies. This celebration, known as Saturnalia, was named after Saturn, another name for Nimrod. Lupercus was a hunter of wolves. Latin lupus is wolf, associated with the Roman god Faunus, god of agriculture and fertility. Since Rome took its gods from those it conquered, we can trace Faunus to his Greek equivalent, Pan, god of the woods, Woden, the green man, fields and flocks. The ancients pictured both of these mythological beings as having a human torso but legs, horns and ears of a goat. This nicely fits with the fact that they sacrificed goats and used thongs from their skin to whip women during this feast. The Bible often compares God's people to sheep, while frequently linking Satan with goats, which is the star sign Capricorn. Pan can be traced to the Phoenician sun god Baal, also a god of fertility and nature. We can make a strong case that Baal is none other than Nimrod. Moses described Nimrod as a mighty hunter in the days after the flood. Nimrod grew powerful because of his ability to fight the wild animals. Valentine comes into play here. The word derives from the Latin valens, as in strong, powerful, mighty. Our word valiant, courageous, heroic also comes from this root. They are apt descriptions of Nimrod. In sense, he was the people's Valentine. The heart, ubiquitous symbol of Valentine's Day, is a symbol for Nimrod. The Romans acquired this from the Babylonians, who spoke the Chaldean tongue. In this language, the word for heart was Baal, or Bel. Due to its similarity in sound to Baal, it became an emblem for Nimrod. English is also called Babel. Asclepius, the Roman god of medicine, whose staff had a snake curled around it, is commonly used as a symbol for medicine. His children included Hygeia, the goddess of health, and Panacea, the goddess of healing. Asclepius represented the serpent bearer, so to Amenhotep, aka Joseph. Joshua stopped the sun, so did Maui, of Hawaiian and Māori myth. Maui is also portrayed as pulling a fish from the ocean. St. John's snake, chalice stained glass. St. John's snake and chalice. The poison cup is an emblem of the Catholic St. John the Evangelist. The symbol stems from the popular miracle story whereby at John's blessing the poison in a cup of wine is transformed into a serpent, healing and salvation. The soul of dead heroes would leave the body in the form of a snake. The symbolism dates back to Egyptian times. The image of a serpent rising from a cup is described in a vision of Isis and the golden ass of Apuleius. It is similar imagery to the bowl of Hygeia, one of the symbols of pharmacy. Hygeia was the Greek goddess of hygiene and daughter of Asclepius. Asclepius' symbol was his rod with a snake twined around it. Correspondingly, Hygeia's symbol is a cup with a snake twined around it. The Ophites, or Orpheans, Greek meaning snake, were members of a Christian Gnostic sect depicted by Hippolytus of Rome in 170 to 235 AD in a lost work. It is now thought that later accounts of these Ophites are all dependent on the lost syntagma of Hippolytus. It is possible that rather than an actual sectarian name, Ophite might have been a generic term. Apart from the sources dependent on Hippolytus, Clement of Alexandria also mentions the group. The Old Testament was written in Hebrew and the New Testament was written in Greek. Hebrew for morning star is Hillel, as in Hellenism, means shining one. There are also other words in Hebrew for morning star. Greek for morning star is Astert, or Aster, as in Astaroth and Asterix. It is named for the planet in its morning aspect. Lucifer, Lightbringer, is its proper name. In Greco-Roman civilization, it is personified as a god, and by some is considered a son of Aurora, the dawn. A similar name used is Noctifer, Nightbringer. Its Latin word derived from the roots lux, light, and ferry, to carry. Freemason is based on fair, to carry the light. Mason being French maison, house of the light bearer. Isis worshippers, or rather Isis priestesses, would enter their temple bearing torches 3 at a time. They would walk around the temple 7 times to get pregnant. It was also used as a name for the morning star, the planet Venus. This is the brightest object in the sky other than the sun and the moon. As a result, Venus is the first star seen in the evening and the last in the morning. Venus is also known in English as the day star because it can be seen in the day. Because the sight of it in the morning heralds the light, it was referred to by Latin speakers as the light bringer or Lucifer. V is the symbol for Set, aka Seth or Setian, aka Santa, Satan, god of chaos and desert storms. It is also called Baal. He is the brother of Osiris. And what do they do at the Olympics with their torches? In the New Testament book of Revelation, an angel called Abaddon, is described as the king of an army of locusts. His name is transcribed in Greek. His name means destruction. Then translated, Vatican is Greek for sacred serpent or divine serpent. It is designed after the Shiva lingam. Maga is Latin for wizard. Clan wizards burn crosses in illumination ceremonies. Baal being the Phoenician sun god symbol. Israel is the Canaanite word for Saturn. Canaanite priests wore swastika on their robes, just as found at the Heliopolis of Baalbek, alongside the 6-pointed star of Shiva. The Kurdish territories in Greater Israel make the exact territories of Assyrian Babylon of the Hellenic Age. Trump is the Serpent King. Jesus reborn. Aurora, the avatar of the Age of Aquarius, which we entered in 2016. 1,260 days after Trump's inauguration on the 100-year anniversary of the Bolshevik Revolution, aged 70 years, 7 months and 7 days, is June 30, 2020. The treaty that the Antichrist breaks ends June 30, 2020. If we use the end of Nimrod's reign in 1267 BC and minus 666, we get 494. I believe it was 1492 that Christo Columbus, or the anointed dove, sailed the ocean blue, just as Noah with his dove. Aquarius, as in John the Baptist, comes after Jesus, avatar of Pisces, hence the foot washing. The treaty was 3.5 years, half of 7 years. Daniel 9:27, the abomination of desolation, ceasing of the daily oblation, will happen in the middle of the 70th week, or final 7-year period, not in the beginning of it. Jesus also says at the time of the abomination of desolation that it will be urgent to head to the place of safety. Sounds like Israel. As great tribulation follows it. Daniel 7:25 says that the little horn, Antichrist, will speak against God and oppress the holy ones for a time, a pair of times, and a half of time. 1 + 2 + 1/2, which equals 3.5 years. Revelations 12:14 says the woman is protected from Saturn for the same amount of times, 3.5 as the little horn oppresses. Revelation says the Gentile armies will trample Jerusalem, DC, for 42 months. Revelation 13:5 says the beast will blaspheme God and conquer the saints for 42 months. Revelations 11:3 says the two witnesses prophesied during the same period for 1,260 days. The nature of the reign of Osiris is interesting. According to Diodore, Osiris wanted to serve humanity and acquire glory. He gathered a great army and formed the project to traverse the whole inhabited land and to teach humankind the art of planting the grapevine and sowing wheat and barley. Indeed, he thought that while removing men from the wild state, while making them adopt a regime of civilization, he would be made by importance of these good deeds worthy of immortal honours. And that is indeed what happened. The text of Plutarch is similar. During his reign, Osiris started by delivering the Egyptians from destitution and savagery. He made them understand agriculture, gave them some laws, and taught them to honour the gods. He then left by the whole world to bring civilization, without having only really to resort to the weapons, almost always achieving the will of his intentions by the charm of his persuasive word and the resources of song and music. These accounts touching the invention of agriculture are confirmed by a great number of Egyptian sources and start with the personal declaration of Osiris in the Ramesses tale of Horus and Seth. It is I who created the barley and wheat to make the gods live. After the gods, the herd of man. In the same way, the stealer of the 18th dynasty previous to the time of Amenhotep, particularly instructive on Assyrian theory, names the god the one who established Ma'at on the two banks. We possess here without doubt the Egyptian counterpart of the Hellenic concept of civilization, the secondary theme of a sovereign charming humanity with his melodious voice. The commentators saw in the work justifiably the interpretation which attempts to bring back a very exotic Osiris in the lap of the Dionysian tradition. Abraham, Nimrod was Shiva, from the Indus Valley Civilization at the end of Taurus, the bull, worshipped to this day in India. Archaeologists believe Egypt's large pyramids are the work of the Old Kingdom society that rose to prominence in the Nile Valley after 3000 BC. Historical analysis says the Egyptians built the Giza pyramids in a span of 85 years from 2589 to 2500 BC. So this is about 400 years before the reign of Abraham / Osiris / Nimrod. The history of India begins with the birth of the Indus Valley Civilization, more precisely known as the Harappan Civilization. It flourished around 2500 BC in the western part of South Asia, what is today Pakistan and western India. Native Americans, however, were the first to mine and work the copper of Lake Superior in the Keweenaw Peninsula of northern Michigan between 5000 BC and 1200 BC. The natives used this copper to produce tools. The Serpent Mound was built by the Knights Templar in 1080. Many native cultures in both North and Central America attributed supernatural powers to snakes or reptiles and included them in their spiritual practice. The native peoples of the Middle Ohio Valley in particular frequently created snake shapes out of copper sheets. Aspects of both the zoomorphic form and the unusual sight have associations with the astronomy worthy of consideration. The head of the serpent aligns with the summer solstice sunset, and the tail points to the winter solstice sunrise, as above, so below. Could this mound have been used to mark the time or the seasons, perhaps indicating when to plant or harvest? Likewise, it has been suggested that the curve of the body of the snake parallel lunar phases, or alternatively align with the two solstices and two equinoxes. Some have interpreted the egg or eye shape at the head to be a representation of the sun. Perhaps even swallowing the sun shape could document a solar eclipse. Another theory is that the shape of the serpent imitates the constellation Draco, with the pole star matching the placement of the first curve of the snake's torso from the head. An alignment with this pole star may indicate that the mound was used to determine the true north, thus serving as a kind of compass, which is why Freemason temples are missing the northern pillar. It represents the northern pole star Draco, Santa, Saturn, home in the north, Nimrod. The mounds serve to mark this astronomical event or a similar phenomenon. It may represent a conglomerate of all celestial knowledge known by these native peoples in a single image.